Sentinel Online. Now loading the Geekcast radio network of podcasts.
Today on episode 61 of the Cinema Geeks,
we discuss what's next for Jason Statham.
We talk about the new titles for the next Star Trek and the next Guardians of the Galaxy films.
We talk about the best and worst from this week's trailers.
We give you an in-depth review of Terminator Genisys,
as well as a special actor spotlight for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
All that and more coming up on episode 61 with the Cinema Geeks. That's right, it's episode 61 of the Cinema Geeks, and just in case you guys are wondering why we're not talking about what we told you we would be talking about last week, due to some power outages and a trip that took Dan away from us, we are holding off 1 week for our look back at the half year so far of 2015, so we're still doing that, just pushing it to next weekend's episode, so you'll have to wait a little bit longer, but we promise it'll be worth the wait. So instead, Amanda and I are here today to do a little bit about Arnold Schwarzenegger and everything that he is involved with, including the new film Terminator Genisys. How is your week been going, Amanda?
It's been pretty fantabulous.
That is a strong word.
We got a new addition to the family.
Yes, but unlike Dan and JD and all these other people, we're going a different route.
We adopted a furry baby.
A furry baby. We're not superstitious. We adopted a 3-month-old black male kitten to join the 10-year-old or 9-year-old female black cat that we have. So 2 black cats now in the house, and this guy is all kinds of energy, and he likes to sleep or try to sleep on your face while you're trying to sleep, which has caused for some sleepless nights. So I guess we can somewhat relate to Dan on a completely different level here.
4.5 hour stretch of sleep at max.
We're trading shifts, and one person is entertaining the kitten while the other person sleeps. So that's our version of children, I guess, at this point, is the 2 cats.
And we named him Mad Mardigan.
And we should give points to anybody that can identify what that's from. It should be pretty easy.
Should be.
We call him Marty, but his full name is Mad Mardigan.
Marty with an I, not a Y.
Everything's I's, not Y's in this podcast. Anyways, it's going to be a little bit different this week. We're going to kind of do a double main attraction here, so we're going to spend some time talking about Terminator Genisys, which we don't usually get to talk about the new film immediately the weekend that it comes out. We're usually later to the game with that, so we're going to get to talk about that, and we're going to do an actor spotlight, so kind of a double main attraction for you guys, but it should be fun.
Double whammy.
Yes, but before we get to that, like we do every week, we're going to talk about the box office, and this is going back a little bit. We're going to actually cover 2 weekends worth of box office because this weekend is now currently over, so we won't give you any predictions. We're just going to take a look back at 2 weeks ago and our predictions from that week, and then we'll look at the results from this weekend that just passed. We'll save any predictions for next weekend's show when Dan's back with us. So 2 weeks ago, our predictions were as follows. I believe you tried again for the Golden Tux.
The Golden Tux.
The Golden Tux. And you were going to predict the top 5 in order. And your prediction, going back to episode 60, was Jurassic World number 1, Ted 2 number 2, Inside Out number 3, Max number 4, and Spy number 5. And you just missed the first Golden Tux. You had the 5 films, and you had all of them in order except for 2. Inside Out beat Ted 2. So you flipped Inside Out and Ted 2. How do you feel about coming that close?
Pretty good. Sore about the loss, but I feel pretty solid in my efforts.
It was the hardest of the predictions, so nothing to feel ashamed about missing out on that one, and I'm pretty surprised how close you came.
You're surprised? Yeah. Skills, just saying.
Okay. Mad skills. I mean, getting the 5 in order is a pretty tricky feat. We'll have to see who can be the first one that eventually does that.
It'll be me.
Okay. Dan's prediction from that episode was that Jurassic World, in its 3rd weekend, would remain number 1 at the box office. And that film continues to not disappoint from a box office standpoint. It did come in at number 1 that 3rd week in a row. It beat Ted 2, Max, Inside Out, etc. So Dan was correct in his prediction. Barely, though. It beat Inside Out by just over 2 million. So it was a real close race that week. And then my prediction, I stole Dan's from a couple weeks prior. I said Cinderella would pass the 200 million mark. and it did. Now at 200 million and 200,000, so it passed that easily that week. So Dan and I are correct. Amanda, you take the loss, which should be evening out the standings a little bit if anybody at home is keeping track of whatever that might be.
I have a chalkboard with tally marks on it.
All right, we're going to have to get some updated standings here at some point. And then, like I said, we won't be doing predictions at all for this weekend that just passed because it's over and done with. But just to recap what happened this past weekend, Jurassic World, 4th week in a row, by 800,000, again, a close race between Jurassic World and Inside Out. So Jurassic World number 1, Inside Out number 2. Terminator Genisys, the new release, comes in at 3rd for its first week in release. And Magic Mike XXL, the other new one, comes in 4th, which means Ted 2 has dropped from 3rd down to 5th. So Amanda, any surprise that Terminator did not take the box office in its first weekend?
A little, yeah. I mean, I can understand, though, with the 1 and 2 spots being what they are. I get it. I thought there would be a little bit more hype about Terminator, but I think that number 3 is where it probably should have been.
Yeah, and for those that are keeping track, Jurassic World now has domestic, 558 million. That is insane. For the record, though, going back a little bit, I believe I made this on a tweet or on Facebook or something, and I don't think I ever said it on the actual podcast, but I predicted earlier on in the year, about March or April, I said that this year was going to be the record holder for the most 500 million movies, the most 400, the most 300, and the most 200. More than any other year. And with Jurassic World passing the 500 mark, I'm going to be right in every single one of those predictions, except for still to be seen on the 200,000 or the 200 million. That'll be the tricky one. But there's never been a year that's going to have 3 films that make the amount that we're going to have with Avengers, Jurassic World, and Star Wars. And that's not even counting Hunger Games still coming out with the movie, and sometimes those can get over 400 million. So we're breaking records this year as far as the most moneymakers at the box office. Nobody had Jurassic World passing 500 million or beating Avengers in any way, shape, or form. So that's impressive. Inside Out's total right now is 246, so it is by far the most money that we're going to see for an animated film probably for the year. We'll have to see what Minions does. That'll be its biggest competition. And Terminator, it's going to have its work cut out for it for making its budget, so we'll see how that goes. The other one that's coming real close to a milestone is Spy. It's at 97.8 million, so it might be passing that 100 million mark here in a week or a week and a half. So, anything else that you saw about the box office you wanted to bring up?
Magic Mike in the top 5, little shocked.
Yeah, 11 million, beating out Ted 2 by just over 500,000. So that's pretty impressive. And I guess let's take a look at the yearly results right now. I said we were going to do that a couple weeks ago because obviously there's been some moving and some shaking in the top 10 and some films that used to be in there that are no longer in there. So let's just look at the top 5 right now for 2015, which are all films that have grossed over 200 million. In the 5th spot, you have Cinderella. In the 4th spot, you have Inside Out. Number 3 would be Furious 7. Number 2, Avengers Age of Ultron. And number 1, Jurassic World. So those are your top 5 on the year so far. So we'll have to see what happens. We'll have some predictions next week going along with the films that are being released when Dan's back with us. But that is a look at the box office for now. After that, we usually get into news and some trailer talk. So let's start with the news here. I have given Amanda no time to prep for these news stories, so we're getting real life, on the spot reactions to these things. So, first headline up for today is that Jason Statham will return for Fast and Furious 8. Amanda, thumbs up or thumbs down for Jason Statham making another appearance in the Fast and the Furious franchise?
I don't mind Jason Statham. I don't care if he's a one-trick pony kind of guy. I don't mind it. We'll see. I didn't see Fast and Furious 7, so I can't really speculate too much.
Yeah, we've caught up with the first 6, but we haven't seen number 7 yet, so I can't necessarily say how much I liked him in 7 or not, but why not? The more continuity you have, I guess, in that franchise, probably the better, so I can't speak too much, though, until after I've seen number 7. So we'll give a mild thumbs up for this one for now. The other news story that we kind of teased in the beginning was the idea that there's going to be some titles for some movies that were released this week and some information on what those titles are. And I know people like to speculate on stuff like that, onto what it's going to mean and what the story might revolve around, or just kind of a general feel from the title. So we'll start with Guardians of the Galaxy, the sequel here, and that is going to have a new title in which it's called Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And that was released via Twitter by James Gunn. The official title for the Guardians sequel is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, VOL.2, like the CD or the tape that we probably saw a lot of times with different people there. So, what do you think, Amanda, for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2?
Very underwhelming.
Underwhelming? Mm-hmm. You laughed.
I did a little bit, but I was shocked at how shitty that name is.
I like it. I think it fits with the musical theme and the sound and the soundtracks that are going on there. I think it works. And Guardians of the Galaxy is already a lot of things to say, so I think something simple and short like that that works pretty well. And hopefully it means that we'll have just as great soundtracks and musical scores and songs, etc., involved in the next Guardians of the Galaxy film as we did in the first one, because I think that was a good selling point for a lot of people on the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. So you're giving this one a thumbs down?
Thumbs down.
I'm going to give this one a thumbs up. So we're split on Guardians of the Galaxy. The other sequel to get a title officially is the next Star Trek film. So again, it's all about the tweets. You got to follow these people and you get news right away. And the next Star Trek film, for those of you that haven't seen, is Star Trek Beyond. So that is what Justin Lin tweeted out there. Star Trek Beyond. Have you seen any of the new Star Trek films?
Yeah, I've seen all of them. We own them.
I didn't know if you were a Trekkie as much as I am.
I dig them, yeah. I like all of them.
What about Star Trek Beyond?
Star Trek Beyond. Yeah, cool, I guess. I don't know.
It's not much to go on there, so I don't
think it's mind-blowing. I don't really think it's catchy, but maybe, I guess.
I mean, I assume everything in Star Trek is kind of beyond and involving worlds that we've never seen, etc. So, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll get some more feedback from diehard Trekkies or all the people that had problems with Into Darkness, but we'll see about Star Trek Beyond and what they think about that one. Some other news items here that made headlines this last week. This one's not necessarily movie related, but Daredevil Season 2 is going to be coming up, and they have revealed who officially is going to be the villain in that season of Daredevil, and that would be none other than the Punisher. And I was wondering, Amanda, I know you didn't quite finish the last little bit of Daredevil yet, but based on what you've seen so far, what do you think about the Punisher reportedly being the villain for Season 2?
I liked the Punisher movies. I think he's a really cool, interesting character, and I think it'll be interesting to see that mashup there.
Yeah, I think obviously Daredevil Season 1 got a lot of praise and a lot of people loved it, so I'm thinking there's a lot of excitement for this next one, so why not bring in somebody with the caliber of Punisher there to face off with Daredevil? So I don't know lots about the character, but I will say that that's a thumbs up for me. Seems like a good idea. Seems like something I can get behind, so double thumbs up for that one. I don't know how many people have been following or even know what the film Skull Island is about, but it has been the sub-name or the subtitle, I guess what you would call, for the next King Kong film. And apparently they're losing a few of the stars that have been tied to it. So Michael Keaton and J.K. Simmons, who were both tied and connected to this project, the King Kong or Kong Skull Island, have both left. The reason being for, I think, scheduling issues. I think it got pushed back or it got changed as far as when it would shoot, and it made it contradict with some other stuff that Michael Keaton and J.K. Simmons were doing, so they will no longer be involved in Kong Skull Island. Amanda, I don't necessarily need your thumbs up or thumbs down about them leaving, but what about just the idea of this King Kong prequel, Kong Skull Island? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty good. I think I would have liked to see Michael Keaton and J.K. Simmons in it. Everything but Birdman, I really like Michael Keaton, and J.K. Simmons, I didn't even like,
Don't say it.
what was that movie?
Don't say it.
The drummer movie.
Don't say it.
What was the drummer movie?
I'm not telling you because I'm not letting you say that on air.
Tell me the drummer movie.
Whiplash?
Whiplash. I wasn't a fan of Whiplash, but I like J.K. Simmons' character in just about anything.
A piece of me just died inside.
I'm okay with that. I'll bury it in the backyard under the shed.
Oh, man. Okay. I'll give a thumbs down to this whole thing. I'm not a fan of King Kong films in general, nor am I a fan of Godzilla or like Barry from True Romance. Not really a fan of most movie monster films and stuff like that. So I wasn't excited about this one beforehand, and if there's something that's causing a few stars to leave, that probably means bad things. So I'll give a thumbs down to Kong Skull Island. Only 2 more pieces of news, pretty short news week. Next one is details about Top Gun 2. So apparently Justin Marks is writing the screenplay right now. And according to producer David Ellison, he has a phenomenal take to really update the world for what fighter pilots in the Navy have turned into today. There's an amazing role for Maverick in the movie, and there is no Top Gun without Maverick, and it's going to be Maverick playing Maverick. That's a mouthful. But are you a fan of the first Top Gun, Amanda?
I couldn't really tell you much about it. I know I've seen it, but maybe once, and when it was on TV or something. I just know he's, riding his motorcycle and doing his thing. And they have some cool names. That's about it.
And it's talking about how this is kind of going to be somewhat showing the end of an era, basically, the end of the dogfighting, the end of fighter pilots, which is kind of what we've been getting towards today, obviously with all the drone technology and the way that the air combat is going these days, that it's kind of a thing of the past. So it should be exploring the end of an era of dogfighting and fighter pilots, which should be somewhat interesting. I don't know how much fans of Top Gun are excited that there is a sequel being made, but I think that's a cool take on it. So I guess I'll give this one a mild thumbs up. What about you?
Yeah, I'll give it a thumbs up.
All right. And more J.K. Simmons news. We talked about what he's not doing, but there is something that he is doing, and that is signing up for Terminator sequels. So apparently J.K. Simmons is on board for some more films if that happens. I don't know if that's set in stone for 100%, but I don't know. We can get into this a little bit more when we talk about Genisys, and we kind of get into some spoilers and whatnot, so people can get our take on that. But what do you think about, just in general, the idea that if there are sequels, J.K. Simmons, the character that you saw from Genisys, will be involved?
I really liked his character. I think it was a little different from what I've seen him in what I've seen him in. And I think that his storyline was really cool, and I liked it.
Yeah, I'm definitely for it. I thought he was a cool character in there. I think it was a cool angle that they added there. And right now, the 2 sequels are slated for May of 2017 and June of 2018. So I don't know if anything will change based on how Genisys does at the box office. But if there are going to be sequels, I'm all for J.K. Simmons being involved with that character, because I'm with you. I think that was cool. So I'll give that one a thumbs up on J.K. Simmons being involved. All right. That means it is time for some trailer talk. And there was a few trailers that were released this last time, during the last week or so. We had Sleeping with Other People. We had Tom Hardy's Legend. Secret in Their Eyes, starring Julia Roberts. We had the Snowden film with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Creed.
Snowden.
I didn't say snowed in.
Sally said Snowden.
No, that's like the stupid thing, that stupid Christmas thing.
It's Snowman.
Yeah, I don't like that. Creed and the Rocky family. London Has Fallen, the sequel to Olympus Has Fallen. The Steve Jobs film, not to be confused with Ashton Kutcher. Jenny's Wedding, Sharknado 3, and a second trailer for Ant-Man, all being released here in the last week. So we're going to let you pick out 2 different films, Amanda. You can either yay or nay, either one. But since there's only 2 of us, we'll take 2 picks apiece. So what's your first one? Is it a yay or a nay?
I'm going to say a yay with Secret in Their Eyes.
Why so?
I like Julia Roberts. I think seeing her in this type of role would be really cool. And I think that the story looked really heartfelt, and I liked it.
Yeah, I think I could get behind that. I mean, I don't know how much this will differentiate from a lot of other films in this genre, but I'm willing to give it a shot based on who's involved. And you got Julia Roberts, you got Nicole Kidman, Ejiofor, and somebody else that was in that I recognize too, but I'm not thinking of who it is off the top of my head. But yeah, I think that's worth a shot. I mean, I don't know if it's something that I'm going to be racing to the theater for, but it's definitely something I would check out on Redbox, Netflix, something like that.
I feel like it almost had a Zodiac feel.
I could see that.
But I think that that's really going to tug on your heartstrings and be a little bit of a thriller at the same time.
Yeah. All right. I would agree with you on that one. I'd probably give that one a yay as well. But my first pick will be for, not to be confused with Snowden with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And why? Because, damn it, folks, that's what a teaser or a trailer should be. Don't give me anything. Don't spoil stuff. Take note, Terminator Genisys people. And there was nothing about this trailer except for words on a screen, but
they were powerful, I thought.
Yeah, but I like the setup. Obviously, this is based on a true story, but I like the idea of this film. In the beginning, this is one of the ones that we circled around a little bit in the most anticipated films at the beginning of the year. So, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, big fan. Historical pieces based on true stories, I'm a big fan. So Oliver Stone making a film. Seems like he hasn't been relevant in a long time. So I'm interested to see what he's putting out here with Snowden. So a yay for me for that one. What about your second pick, Amanda?
I'm gonna say Creed.
All right, Creed. What do you think? Yay or nay?
Yay.
Why so?
I just thought it looked really cool, and I thought that the storyline veering off of the Rocky storyline, I thought it was fresh, and I was intrigued.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to put myself out there and probably get blasted for this, but I'm not sure I've seen a single Rocky movie from beginning to end. I don't know. I was never a boxing fan growing up. I was never a fan of Sylvester Stallone, and the Rocky movies just never appealed to me. So I will say that is a big blind spot. I don't think I've seen a single one. I
wanted to be a boxer and Sylvester Stallone, so
it's kind of creepy.
It's not.
All right, so you're giving a yay to Creed. I'm indifferent since I haven't seen any of the other ones. I like Michael B. Jordan, but I have no knowledge of the character that I believe is his dad is in the other film.
Apollo Creed?
Yeah, whatever. So I'll catch up on those and get back to you on that one. I only got one pick left. Man.
Don't say Sharknado 3.
I would like to say Ant-Man just for the Avengers joke that they put in there. I think that was hilarious when he says they should just call the Avengers. I think that's great if they're going to have more of those kind of acknowledgments that stuff, that those people do exist in the world. And I'd like to put Sharknado as a nade just so I could just like bash on it for a few minutes. But
you couldn't even finish the trailer.
Yeah, we stopped the trailer halfway through. I've never seen any of those movies, and people that like those movies and feed money into that or do anything like that, you are bad people. I'm intrigued by Steve Jobs, but if I had to say one other thing, I'd probably go to Legend and give a yay for Legend in the Tom Hardy versus Tom Hardy. Not really fighting each other, but the brother and brother. Seems like they're somewhat being pitted against each other at one point by the authorities, but just seems like an interesting story, again, based on somewhat on a true story. And why not see Tom Hardy play two different characters? And
Van Damme did it just fine.
And I like the mob angles and everything else about this. So I'm intrigued by this film. I have been since it was announced. So a big yay for the Legend trailer. What do you think about that trailer?
I think that second trailer made me want to watch it even more. The first one had me hooked, but I think I gleaned a little bit more from this next trailer, and definitely all in.
All right, so we're interested to see which ones of those you guys think are interested, which ones we didn't talk about that you might be interested in, or if you disagree with our takes so far. So definitely go to the website and let us know which ones of those films you are either yaying or naying for. I'd like to see how much buzz there is for these different films. So, and if you are a Sharknado fan, you can explain yourself on the website. So,
or you can just go back under the rock that you should be living underneath.
Ouch. Strong words from Miss Hard Candy Mandy there. But we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we got a lot of stuff to talk about in our main attraction. We're getting all into the divisive, the polarizing Terminator Genisys, as it was today on Twitter. And then we're going to get an in-depth look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we'll see how much luck we have in coming up with his top 3 films and his bottom 3 films, and kind of a brief commentary on where he stands overall and going into the future, where he's at in his career. So a lot of cool stuff to talk about, so stick with us. We'll be right back after the break.
After these messages, we'll be right back. Hi, this is Greg.
This is Chuck.
And this is Dan, and we are Talking in Circles.
Because the world needs another podcast, we are here as Geekcast Radio's newest edition.
And as the title says, each week we get lost in conversation about a wide range of topics, including movies, comics, games, art, TV, and even occasionally sports.
We play games and discuss pivotal topics like who would win in a fight, the Kool-Aid Man or Tony the Tiger, and examine the hot-button issues of the world of geekdom.
We keep things fresh by taking timeless topics in new directions.
We are simply three friends having a fun time talking about life's most fascinating foibles.
Stay connected with us every Tuesday on iTunes or at geekcastradio.com.
Hey guys, it's Optimus Solo and
Hard Candy Mandy.
we just wanted to let you guys know about another podcast out there that we both think you would all enjoy.
It's one of both of our favorite shows to listen to, and it's none other than the True Bromance Podcast.
True Bromance is a movie podcast hosted by longtime friends Hyro and Barry, and if you like to smile, laugh, and just be genuinely entertained while listening to movie talk, then this is definitely the right show for you.
Each week, the guys break down a recently released movie, and not only do they tie in the movie that week to the beers that they are drinking during the show,
but they also tie it in to a real fun top and bottom 5 list associated with that movie.
It's a blast hearing both sides of these lists, and it definitely makes them unique amongst all other movie review podcasts.
So we definitely want to recommend all of you guys to go check out their show. Just search out the True Bromance Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and all other podcast platforms. And if you listen via iTunes, do us a favor and leave them a 5-star review. And don't forget to let them know that the Cinema Geeks sent you.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download the show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
Now back to the show. Do you see how your patience paid off?
All right, thanks for sticking with us through that break. And as we said, we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. But before we get to that, just a quick note, we'll be saving our what we've been watching as well as our homework assignments for next time after, probably not during the mid-year review, but the next episode after that with Dan, we'll get into our homework assignments where he was watching Blue is the Warmest Color, and we were watching Perks of Being a Wallflower. So stay tuned for our thoughts on those in a couple episodes, probably episode 63. We'll be covering that. Before we get into our main attraction, though, I'd like to pimp out a couple things that we've been doing over here. First of all, if you guys are not aware, we started our first ever director spotlight as we go through a director kind of retrospective. The first director up was Quentin Tarantino, so we have an introductory episode as kind of our feelings on Quentin Tarantino before the retrospective began, and then we'll be going one by one through his films. With the exception of Kill Bill, we'll probably do that as a combined episode. So far, we have out there for his actual films is we have the Reservoir Dogs look back, so you can listen to Dan and I talk about Reservoir Dogs. Next up, obviously, will be Pulp Fiction, and we'll continue through Quentin Tarantino's filmography. So definitely stay tuned and listen to that and give us your thoughts, because we'll be doing some more director retrospectives in the future, and we can mold and change the way we do it based on your feedback. So positive or negative feedback is definitely appreciated for the director retrospectives. We already have a great comment on the website from Film for Fun, giving us his top reasons for why Tarantino is a genius, and you'll have to wait and see if we share those thoughts once we're done with the retrospectives. But thanks for Film for Fun for leaving that comment. We also got some great comments on our last episode, which was episode 60, talking about originality in film. So I just wanted to give a shout out to some of those people that are commenting on the websites. Clancy Parker, Haley Bailey, and Insurgent Cinema all gave us some good thoughts as far as our episode back then about originality in film. So if you want to hear what they said or interact with them, make sure you go to the website, search out Cinema Geeks, and look at episode 60, and you can join in the comments there. But thanks to those guys for comments, and hopefully you guys will comment again with this episode. So let's get into the topic for today, Amanda. We are fresh. Usually we're different than some of the other podcasts because we talk more about the news and the box office, etc. And we usually have some time to digest some films, to sit on the films for a little while, to listen to everybody else's instant feedback as they see the films, on opening day or opening weekend. And we usually wait a week, and we get to kind of sit on that and let it marinate for a little bit before we comment on any new films. But this time, we're right with them. We saw it same time they did, and we're putting out the podcast very similar to time frames like In Session Film and True Bromance, etc. do. So we're right in the mix this time. A little different take because we haven't had a lot of time to let this one digest. So what was your initial excitement level for Terminator Genisys, and what were your expectations going in?
I enjoy the Terminator franchise as a whole, like the older movies. I think it's hard for me to pick out things from individual films. I think they might kind of blur together for me a bit, except for, obviously the Christian Bale joint. But I think this film had me stoked, definitely, especially the cast and seeing young Arnold again and how well they did that in the trailer. I was pretty stoked to go into this.
Yeah, I was kind of indifferent. I didn't have high expectations for it. I've never been like a huge Terminator fan. Like, I appreciate the first couple films and kind of what they represented in the genre and for what they were doing back, especially in the 80s there. So I definitely like the first two Terminators, but I'm not someone that was jumping up and down, especially after the taste that was left in the mouth after Salvation. Wasn't a huge fan of that. So I was kind of going in with some medium to low expectations, and then especially after you see the first couple waves of critiques and reviews going out there. Obviously, it was scoring pretty bad on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it currently has a 27% or something like that. So expectations were somewhat low going in, but I was still interested in seeing it because it's another film, and that's what we do. We watch new films. So I was interested to see what the take was with this one. So that being said, what was your initial reaction when the film was done, Amanda? Let me put it this way. I said the Rotten Tomatoes score, it's got like a 27% from the critics, but from the actual audience and like just the users on Rotten Tomatoes, they have it up near about the 68%. So are the critics right with 27%? Are the users right with 69%? Or are neither of them right and it should be something completely different?
I think it should be a little bit higher than what the users have it rated. I don't know why there isn't more love for this movie. I really, really enjoyed it.
I asked that question on Twitter today, and it started a hailstorm of anger and passion from a few of our podcasting friends. And I'm with you. I went in, maybe it's because I went in with low expectations, like I said, but I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was entertaining for a summer blockbuster film. I mean, it was better than a lot of the crap we've gotten over the last couple of years. It's definitely better than, for me, it's definitely better than the last Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. It was better than Godzilla from last year. It was better than...
Godzilla was last year?
Yeah. Better than the Transformers films of late, and that's coming from a diehard Transformers fan. So, I mean, compared to a lot of the stuff we've been getting, like, I was entertained throughout the whole thing. I don't understand. I think people sometimes with these franchises are so passionate and so tied to the original films that sometimes they just come in wanting or expecting to hate it, and then it's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I feel like some of it is like that. Like, Terminator 1 has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, so obviously everybody in the world apparently loves that film even more than I do. And I don't know, I feel like this one didn't really stand... I think this could have been a great film, and it still would have been bashed by some people. I mean, I'm not calling it a great film by any means. I don't think it's anywhere near one of my favorite films this year so far.
I think it's in one of my favorite films of this year's list. I think that's definitely in my list, and if you like the first one so much, I don't understand why you couldn't appreciate a ton about this movie.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you on some of that, because we actually rewatched Terminator, the original Terminator, the night before we watched this one in the theater, and I thought all that did was really enhance and enrich the experience of watching this one. Like, I liked this one, especially coming less than 12 hours after watching the first one. I thought it was great the way they mixed in what was happening in the first Terminator and kind of that whole storyline. And I mean, some of it's so well done, even if it was brought to better standards from a visual standpoint and effects and whatnot. But I thought it was perfectly woven in to the beginning of this film and really set the stage for what was going on. And I don't understand the argument about this one, and this is not just coming from the people that we were talking to on Twitter. I read through a dozen or so reviews on Rotten Tomatoes from the people that were bashing it, because my main thing after watching this was, why is this getting such a bad review? I wanted to know what I was missing. I wanted to know, what did I not see, or what should I have been upset about that I just wasn't when I watched it. So I was reading a bunch of reviews, obviously had the big Twitter conversation with our friend DJ Valentine from Simplistic Reviews and JD from In Session Film, amongst some other people that might have chimed in there at the end. But I don't understand the whole time travel problem that people are having with this one, and that it erased the first two films, or it made the first two films obsolete, and that's why
time travel in the timeline is fluid. It's gonna be changing, and of course there's obviously the butterfly effect, and if they're going back and forth, past, present, future, whatever, they're gonna be changing stuff. They're trying to change stuff, so of course the storyline is gonna shift, and it's gonna be different, and things are gonna be negated.
But that doesn't eliminate that the events of Terminator 1 or Terminator 2 happened in one time frame at one point. Like, just because we've gone back and like erased that doesn't mean that doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like, it still existed in an alternate time frame, whether it is still going on or not. Like, I don't think you can be mad at that and say, just because the first two films are so great and this one somewhat makes it so those don't happen, like, that shouldn't be what this is faulted for. Like, time travel, there are no rules. There's nothing saying that the next film couldn't redo all of that and say that it all happened again because somebody went back even further and stopped something else from happening. Like, it's constantly evolving. It constantly can affect what either happens or doesn't happen. So I don't buy the whole, I'm going to hate on this film just because it took away something from the beauty and what happened in the first two films. Like, they can all coexist and be all good, and they don't have to take away from each other.
What they did take away was the Arnold Schwarzenegger wang flopping around.
Yeah, and I appreciate that we didn't have to see Arnold Schwarzenegger's wang or Jai Courtney's wang. I like that we didn't. Amanda might have been hoping for it, but I can appreciate in modern day times where we're actually not seeing wang for once on a film.
What do you mean not seeing wang for once?
It seems like it's all over the place these days.
Dicks are popping up everywhere.
Yeah, and I'm glad it didn't in this episode, or in this movie.
In this episode.
In this movie. Or in this episode. You guys can't see what's happening, but yeah. But going back to a thing, what are the things that you liked about it most?
I really liked the humor that was throughout. I thought it was really well done. It was subtle sometimes, in your face a little bit in other moments, but I think that overall, no matter who it was it Jai, was it Arnold, I think all of that was really well played. I also thought that it had heart. I felt for these characters more than maybe in the older Terminator films. I think I was more emotionally vested in this, maybe because I was older. I'm not really sure. I have a more broad spectrum of emotion, but I think I was touched. I cried a little bit at one point.
Got the feels? I
got the straight feels. And I really liked the storylines that they had as far as the characters. J.K. Simmons popping up. His character was really entertaining, and I, like you said, I liked that angle that they threw in there. I even really liked Emilia Clarke way better as Sarah Connor. In the first Terminator film, she was so whiny and weak. I know that was how she was supposed to be in there. You know, she's supposed to transform into this warrior. But it just really took away a lot of the film for me, because I'm just like, why is she flailing her arms and flopping against this wall here when there's an explosion? Just stupid things. But I really liked Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor. I thought just because she's short doesn't mean she can't, fire a gun and whoop some butt, coming from experience. So I liked her. I also thought Arnold did a really good job. I think that I
think Arnold's been somewhat on a roll lately.
Yeah, I think he didn't even look that bad. And I think the integration of his character, or him as the Terminator in the first one, how they kind of meshed that look into this, I thought that was really well done. I think all of the nods to the first one that kind of tied the timelines together and showed the how that was the same, and then how it kind of got to a certain point that now everything's going to be different.
Right.
We knew all this was going to happen, but now we don't know any more past this point, so everything has changed.
Right.
And I think that Jai Courtney as Kyle Reese was really good. I liked him. I didn't think he was too over the top. I think he was maybe
first of all, for
a
people
little under the radar. But
for people that are calling him bland or saying that performance was bland, that is how the character is written. Like, the character of Kyle Reese is a bland character. Like, anybody could play him almost, because he's not supposed to be Han Solo. He's not supposed to be John McClane. He's literally just someone, that's facilitating the story and stuff like that. Like, nobody, after watching, let's not get retrospective, rewriting history. Nobody that saw Terminator was raving about Kyle Reese the first time.
No.
Nobody was raving about that performance. It was just almost a background, like just a plot character it was all about Arnold and Sarah Connor. Like, nobody was going bonkers about Kyle Reese after the first Terminator, so let's not pretend that was something that existed. Nobody was raving about the performance, no one was raving about the character. It's a bland character that doesn't need someone that's overly charismatic. It doesn't need someone that's bigger than life.
But I think of this one, they really beefed up and fleshed out his story, and they made him
he was a much more. There was
character.
Much more to his character in this film than the first one, and I don't care how many people wanted to rave about Terminator, because yes, it was a great film, but we can't say that the Kyle Reese character in Terminator 1 had more depth or more story than the one in this one. It just is not true.
Flopping around with your eyes rolling the back of your head because you got shot somewhere we don't even know.
Yeah, and I'm not even getting into the acting. I'm just saying, like, just the character overall. There's way more to the Kyle Reese character in this one. You have the dynamics between his relationship with John Connor, which all we get in the first one is just the talk that John Connor sent him back. We don't get the actual reaction and the actual relationship between those two like we do with this one.
Or his emotion regarding John Connor.
Right. We also don't get the dynamics between him and Sarah Connor that we do in this one. Yes, they interact the whole time, and he's trying to protect her, and you have that angle, but you don't get the whole, that... I think it's amped up in this one because you have a Sarah Connor that already knows. You have Emilia Clarke Sarah Connor already knows. It's a different character. You almost can't compare the two because they're different places. They know different things, so they're completely different characters. It's much more comparable to the Sarah Connor in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, probably, than the one in Terminator 1. But she already knows who Kyle Reese is and what the history and what the future is supposed to be. So, I mean, it adds a depth to that relationship, too. So I just found the relationships between the characters a lot more believable. In the first one, it's literally just a girl that knows nothing about anything, that has somebody trying to kill her and somebody trying to protect her, and that's the depth of those characters in the first one. I'm not saying it's bad. It worked for that film. But let's not fault this one and say that the characters are somehow more shallow or more bland, because there was way more to the characters this time to actually sink your teeth into.
And also, the T-100, or 101, was it 101?
Arnold is the 101, I believe.
Yeah, I think he even had way more depth to him than the original.
Yeah, and I could see some people faulting it a little bit because he is cybernetic being or.
But if you think about it, if he's AI, he has flesh tissue and he's AI. He is on this plane for so many years. He's going to pick up habits and develop a new level of state of being.
Right. I mean, I can see where some people probably the worst dialogue of the whole film was where they were saying something about that he loved Sarah Connor, or that they somehow put in love
with the hug thing
or something, or you never thought that he'd say I love you or something like that. And I can see people saying that's probably the worst dialogue of the film, so a little cheesy there.
My only problem was when he was like, Kyle Reese is a good man, and I was kind of taken into myself for a second and thought, how would he be able to determine that? What would his criteria be to be able to tell her that he's a good man? Right.
And yeah, so I can see a few problems with how Arnold's character was handled, maybe a little bit here and there, but overall his performance I thought was great. Like you said, the humor. A lot of times Arnold can come across as super cheesy or like forcing lines that aren't funny anymore, like the whole "I'll be back" thing, like that could be forced in there. But I thought it was somewhat fine. I mean, we saw it in the trailer anyways. Mm-hmm. We'll get into the trailer here in a second, but overall I thought the characters had a lot more to it. We'll also get into the acting here in a little bit because that was heated on Twitter as well, and I'd like to comment on a few things there that I think people are just blind to from watching the first one. Like I said, I think people are watching that first one
they have their blinders
a little bit too much with rose-tinted glasses there, and then nostalgia's taken over a little bit. There's no way that the first one should have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm sorry, folks. Call that sacrilege or blasphemy or whatever. It's a great film. I have no problem with it being highly rated in certain qualifications if you want to talk about the decade it came in or the genre or stuff like that, but for it to have 100% is a bit extreme. It should be somewhere in the 90s maybe, high 80s, low 90s, but there's no way Terminator 1 should be 100%. There are definitely issues in that film, and don't even say that the visual effects should get a pass because of the time period, because guess what, guys? Star Wars was doing that years before it came out and doing it better. So if Star Wars could have done the visual effects, there could have been some improvements on Terminator, regardless of the budget constraints that it might have had, and that's just one of the issues that I have with the first film. But getting into what you were talking about a little bit, we talked about how it does a real good job of kind of showcasing what happened in Terminator 1, almost scene for scene and moment for moment, with improved visuals and everything, but they're showing exactly how it all sets up, and then you said that it gets to a certain point where all of a sudden things become different. Something hits you where you're not expecting it.
Well, that's just something that John Connor set up too when he said, I cheated. She told me everything, but past this I don't know. And it gets to a point where they know everything that's happened. Right. And then once that breaks, then they don't know anymore, so things aren't going to change.
Right. But there's one point specifically where you're following the first movie scene for scene, and that something changes. And that wasn't in the first one. And that's kind of like your first idea that, okay, now we're going a different direction. And then obviously there's a twist later on. But how much fault should we give to whoever's behind putting the actual trailer out for this film? Because I feel like this film would have gone over a little bit better if the trailer was completely different. Because they literally give one of the two biggest twists in the movie away in the trailer. Mm-hmm. And that should never happen. I don't know who comes up with what should be in the trailer and who then okays it to actually go out, but whoever was in charge of that for this film should never be allowed to touch another trailer for any film in the future.
I think this is one of the biggest spoiler-filled trailers I have seen.
So I would give major point deductions for whoever's involved with the trailer, because that definitely ruined some aspects of this film. That I'm not saying you couldn't have seen them coming, or I don't think I would have seen the one coming, but I just would have liked to have the experience fresh watching the film. And I know a lot of people avoid trailers for this exact reason, but you should be able to watch trailers without having parts of films spoiled.
They're meant to intrigue you, not give you the full synopsis in 2 minutes.
It's supposed to be more of a teaser, not a whole plot reveal.
I think that the twist that was in the trailer, I liked it. I mean, I was pissed that they spoiled it for me, but I still appreciated it. I liked it. I was thinking, where else can we go with this story? Right. And I think that it was perfect.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either. I know some people said it was silly or stupid or whatever, but I don't necessarily see it that way. I mean, you see, and this is a bit of a spoiler right now, so if you don't want to have part of the movie spoiled, I guess tune out for a little bit for about the next 30 seconds. But you see when Kyle Reese is going back, as he would have in the original one, which is not a spoiler, he is sent back, to 1984. But you see right then that somebody is doing something to John Connor.
Mm-hmm.
So then it makes perfect sense to follow that plot line to say that he's been affected somehow. Like he's been changed, or he's been, whether, we don't know if he's been killed, whether he's been replaced, whether, like you said, he's been altered. So I think it works perfectly fine. It's not stupid. It's not silly. It makes perfect sense with how they set it up.
It makes perfect sense as well, because if you think about what Skynet was trying to do with these Terminators, was infiltrate into these factions of humans that were left. And what better to do than take their leader,
right,
and use him as their puppet.
Right. And they had to do something because they know that, I mean, they could clearly see that Kyle Reese is going back there. They probably already know about that, since this is, you got to understand that this is not like something that probably only happened one time, as we know, because this time Sarah Connor already knows a lot of the things. So I mean, this is not like Terminator 1 happened, Terminator 2 happened, and then this happened. Like, this cycle has been going on over and over again. Like, Kyle Reese has been sent back, and the Terminators have been sent back multiple times. This has been like a whole cat and mouse thing that's been going on for years or decades.
Even though they say that this weapon is their last failsafe or whatever, clearly it hasn't been used just this one time.
Right,
if
it's
they
been
send
used
one back,
every
which
time
is
we get to that
9
point,
or
it gets sent back again, or they try something different, or they're trying to send Terminator back before. You either have the Resistance or the John Connor party sending somebody back earlier and earlier to try to protect Sarah Connor, or you have Skynet sending someone back earlier or different or whatever to try to kill her. So I mean, this has been a cat and mouse game that's going on, and I think some people are under the impression that it just happened in Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 and now here or whatever, and that's not the case. So I think the whole focusing on John Connor and trying to infiltrate him and use him for their progress is something that makes perfect sense. I don't understand why that's silly or why that's stupid. I agree with you, like you said, about the humor, and that felt good too. I was entertained. Some people were saying that this film was boring or a snooze fest or whatever. I didn't get that at all.
No, not at
When
all.
was there a slow moment, or when was there dialogue that was just being over and over? I mean, I get that the movie is 2 hours, but it didn't feel like a 2-hour film to me.
No. I'm always at this point in a film where I'm like, geez, how much time has passed and how much more time do I have to be in this
We didn't look at
film?
our clocks one time.
And we didn't at all. No.
So, I mean, I think it was entertaining from that standpoint. I was never bored. There was action going on, and the dialogue was directly related to the whole chase and everything like that. So,
And there wasn't too much dialogue that was just
Right.
surrounding people talking just to share emotions and things.
like I said, I really do appreciate also the J.K. Simmons edition and how he had a tie into the original one, and how that's that cop grown up. And it makes sense that there would be somebody that would experience that in 1984 that might still be alive, or someone experienced, like, you have the time from in 84, 97, 2017 or whatever. I mean, we're not talking about hundreds of years here, so people would have there's a possibility that someone would have seen something or would still be alive that experienced some events from the first one. So I think that was a very cool thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of adds to the fact that you don't just have these crazy people from the future telling you things that you're not going to believe, but you have this guy that's saying, no, this is the whack job here that's seen it as well. So,
And I think that with Arnold too taking the quote unquote long way,
Right.
I thought that was a really, really cool aspect. And I really didn't see that coming at all.
no, I like that. I like that, as well as the effects that they did with the aging of the skin that's on his outer casing and kind of how that progressed as well. I thought that was super cool effects. So I thought all that was fun. Of course, they did the classic thing with Jai Courtney where there's two of them and you got to try to figure out which one's real, which one's not. I mean, that's been seen for decades in different cartoons and different movies. So I mean, that was cool. You always have a cool little standoff to try to figure out how you're going to determine which one's which. But she went with the easy route, just shoot one of them in the foot and see what happens.
And
So.
I thought that the costume as well were so on point. I mean, right down to his Nikes and when he was in the 80s.
Yeah.
Same from the first film, the t-shirt, the jacket, everything. Even what the punks were wearing.
Right.
And the punks from the first one, that was the guy from Twister.
Okay.
What's his name?
You're talking about Bill Pullman?
Bill, yeah. He was one of those punks, yeah.
I didn't know that.
He was like the main one that broke the bottle over the telescope or whatever.
I will say that's one of the only moments I will fault Jai Courtney or the direction in this one is when he's going through the department store and getting the clothes. The one scene where he picks up the shoes. In the first one, I will say it was done better because in this one he literally didn't even look to see if the shoe was the same size as his foot.
Yeah, he did.
He not like the first one. The first one he holds it up and it's like you can tell he's seen if it fits, and then he goes on. And this one he goes through the motions of putting the shoe on his next to his foot, but he doesn't actually ever. It's like he's not even looking at that point. He's already moving away. So
it was just quick.
I thought that was a little too quick, but getting into the acting a little bit, because this is where the big fight's going on, and let's not get confused, guys. Nobody's saying that Sarah Connor is not a great heroine or that she's one of the best female badasses in cinema history. I know a lot of people, when we were talking about Mad Max Fury Road on different podcasts earlier in the year, were talking about how much Furiosa is, a badass heroine, and that we haven't had a lot. And people had top lists of, or conversations of, what are the other great heroines in film? And Sarah Connor comes up again and again and again because she is a great character and she is a great heroine as far as the character goes. That does not mean that people are also praising Linda Hamilton's role as Sarah Connor. All right? People can say that the character is great without necessarily in the same breath saying that the actress did a great job of portraying it. Now, she does do a pretty good job in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I'll give her that. But since I didn't rewatch that recently, I only rewatched the first Terminator. In the first Terminator, her acting is a little weak. As good as that film is, her acting's a little weak, and you pointed out to a great scene, and I should capture it on YouTube or something and tell someone to tell me that that's a great acting scene. But when she is flailing against the wall, she looks absolutely retarded, and she flails against the wall 4 or 5 different times that it was like she was having a seizure.
She's not taking cover. She's just throwing herself up against a wall with her arms above her head.
Right. I mean, the acting overall from... No one lauded Terminator 1 when it came out for the acting, guys. Get over it. It didn't happen. It was lauded because it was science fiction. It was the visual effects, the whole idea of this Terminator, because Arnold was in it, because it was a great action film. There was suspense and science fiction elements that everybody loved. Nobody was putting people up for best actor or supporting actress from this film. It wasn't lauded as a great film for actors or actresses. Half the people in this film went on to do nothing else. I realized that Kyle Reese was the same guy that does Johnny Ringo in Tombstone and maybe appeared in 1 or 2 other decent roles, but come on, the guy did not have a storied career of great acting after that. Linda Hamilton hasn't done anything in her career hardly, so let's not talk about how great these actors and actresses are. And the other thing was the guy that plays Kyle Reese in the first one, his acting was pretty bad. Especially when he gets shot, when he's in the truck with Sarah Connor and she has to drive and he was shooting out the window and he gets shot. Talk about some overacting. He was rolling his eyes in the back of his head 3 or 4 different times, in progression. A scene would show him and he's rolling his eyes in the back of his head, and then the next scene he would do it again, and the next scene he would do it again. I don't know what the direction was, but the acting was somewhat comical in the first one at times. So let's get over the fact that these were some type of great actors that Jai Courtney and Emilia Clarke could not hardly ever compete with. All right, when all is said and done, Emilia Clarke is 10 times the actress that Linda Hamilton will be when they're both when you have both of their careers complete. And you look at them both, you guys are going to be sticking your foot in your mouth about saying that Linda Hamilton was ever a better actress than Emilia Clarke. And regardless of what you like or dislike about Jai Courtney, he did nothing wrong in this film. And
there was too many people going into this hating him already, and disliking the fact that he was cast for this because they don't like him in much at all, or they can't give him credit in this film because it's not what they wanted based on the first one.
Right, and I get people didn't like him in Die Hard. That's one of his earlier roles, and he was pretty bad in it or whatever.
I didn't think he was that bad. I liked him as that.
But I mean, I get that, and that was a bad movie, so maybe that didn't help things.
I don't agree with that at all. I like that.
Most people didn't like that film. But
Do you like Die Hard movies?
Yeah, I didn't like that one though.
I liked it.
But I don't get it. Like, people hated him in the Divergent series and the Insurgent series, and I don't think he's that bad. People just say over and over it's the same argument. He's bland and he has no charisma. He's bland and he has no charisma. I guess everybody has a different definition of that, but
he's stoic.
But I'm not getting in much complaints from any of the females that are watching him. So maybe that's just a guy thing, that guys don't like him for some reason because they want him to be somebody that he's not.
Because he's a buff, sexy beast, and you guys are hating.
But yeah, I don't think he was that bad in the film. Overall, I would take the acting in this film over everything. And even Arnold is better in this film than he was as an actor back in that film. He's become a good actor. He was not a good actor in the 80s. I don't care how great or how nostalgic the Conan films are, or the Terminator films are, or all the other films are. Those were good films because they were fun, because they were entertaining and whatever, but it wasn't because of Arnold's acting. But in his later days now, he has become a better actor. He is way more believable with how he acts and his delivery of his lines. So I would even take Arnold's performance in this one over the first one. But this is not a hate fest on Terminator 1. I think that's a good if not great film, and I think I don't understand why people can't say that Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and this one all can be good at the same time. Like, why does it have to be one or the other? Why do we have to either hate this one or...
If this was a standalone film, or if it was a complete reboot, I don't know if this is a part of the series or if it really is a complete reboot, but you can still appreciate the film for what it was. And I think if you have nostalgia for the other ones, I feel like you should be able to appreciate it that much more.
Right, and that's something that we should give credit for this one. This could be a standalone film. This doesn't need... I think you can appreciate more of this film if you've seen the first couple, but you don't have to have watched the first couple to understand what's going on in this film and to follow it. It can be a standalone film.
It feeds you all of that.
So, I mean, with the way that it does the introduction, you could watch this as a standalone film, as a new generation of people that have never seen Terminator, and it would work. And I think a lot of times reboots or sequels or different things like that don't work like that, so I will give it credit for that. Anything else before we give our closing grades on Terminator Genisys that we haven't talked about that you'd like to get out there?
Can I include a spoiler?
Yeah, spoiler alert coming up for Terminator Genisys. What do you got?
I think the upgrade that he got at the end. As soon as he fell in that pit of stuff,
right?
And it was like, oh, it's nothing if it doesn't have a CPU. Well, he has a CPU. He's got that chip. So as soon as he got dunked in that stuff, I knew. I was like, oh, he's coming back. And I liked it. I'm glad that happened. I think that was a really feel-good moment, and it completed a circle for me.
Yeah, and I could see this movie just being by itself. It doesn't even need to have more movies. I mean, I guess the door is open to have more, but obviously with time travel, the door is always open to do whatever you want. But I think this could have been the end, and that would have been fine too. So I don't get the hate for it. Overall, grade-wise, first, so people don't think I'm hating on the first Terminator. If I was giving a grade on the first Terminator, I'd probably give it like a 8 out of 10. Like, I think I liked it a little more than you did, but I think the first Terminator for me would get an 8 out of 10. I'm not saying this one is as good as that one. I think there are improvements in stuff. I can see people liking the story in the first one better, but I think there are some improvements in a lot of the other areas, so I will give Terminator Genisys probably a 7 out of 10 is where I'm at for Genisys. A low 7, but a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's the greatest film of the year, but I don't think it deserves the hate that people are giving it, so I would give it a low 7 out of 10. What about you for the first Terminator film?
First Terminator, I'd probably give it a 6.
Okay.
Genisys, though, I'm going to give it a 9. I really enjoyed it. I think a lot of this movie had me engaged, and I was thoroughly entertained and enthralled and invested in all the characters, and I would definitely see it again.
All right, so better reviews than you're probably hearing at most places because people want to hate, but...
haters gonna hate, and ain'ters gonna ain't.
So get off the nostalgic bandwagon, stop your Jai Courtney hating just to hate him, and let's move on to our second half of our main attraction, which is going to be talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger. We've done a few actor spotlights before. We've broken down Will Ferrell. We broke down Harrison Ford, and it seems fitting with Maggie this year and with Terminator Genisys that we do a little Arnold talk and try to break down what his best and worst films have been. So we're going to get into that next. According to Rotten Tomatoes, just real quickly, his best rated films, like I said, obviously Terminator, the first one would count because that was 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. His other very highly rated films, he has a 96% for The Long Goodbye, which he was not a main role in. He has 93% for Terminator 2 Judgment Day, 94% for Dave, and I believe he has one other one in the 94% for Malou. Those are all the ones above 90%. He also has some that are rated pretty bad. So do we want to start with the good or the bad, Amanda?
Let's start with the good.
All right, we're going to start with the good. So we're going to try to narrow it down to his top 3 films. Looking at everything he's done, what would be one film you'd like to throw out there? This is not necessarily going to be in the top 3, but what's one you'd like in the discussion?
Total Recall.
All right, so we're throwing Total Recall out there to be in discussion. That was an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's also one of his higher rated ones from 1990. So we'll put that in the conversation. Obviously, we have to have Terminator, the series, regardless of which film you think, but we got to consider those films as possibilities. So we got Total Recall and the Terminator series. What else would you put out there that you think deserves to be in the discussion?
I think if it was just my personal list, I'd put End of Days in there. I think that was a little bit of a different role. Is that on here at all? Do you see the rating there? What is that? An 11%?
Yeah, that's an 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. So that's
really
where the personal
that.
standpoint comes into play.
I think as far as how well the films did,
not necessarily how well. It was a combination of how, box office, Rotten Tomatoes, how much we ourselves like them. I know I have a soft spot for some of his stuff from earlier. So whether they make the final grade, I just like to throw them out there anyways. But
you say Kindergarten Cop.
I like Kindergarten Cop. I actually like Twins.
Yeah, Twins is good.
So those are kind of two of the ones from early on that I would probably put out there that I
Junior
liked.
too. I thought that was such a fun film.
Of course, you have Predator.
Yes.
You have the Conan series.
Yes.
Conan the Destroyer, Conan the Barbarian. You got Commando. Any other ones that we're missing that you'd like to put out? I have not seen Dave, so I can't comment on Dave.
I have not seen Dave either.
Sorry, that can't necessarily be involved. So
I kind of would almost like to put Maggie in there.
Okay. He was good in Maggie. I couldn't put it in there as a film, but if we were talking about his role, I think it's one of the worst films of 2015, but I think he was good.
I agree with that.
You have
I think
Last Stand from recent years. You got the
Expendables
series. We got to narrow it down to 3.
I think that Expendables should be eliminated from both sides of the list. He was kind of a
small role in that.
Yeah, but there were so many big name actors in there. I think they all had to share, some screen time there. I just feel like there's too many big names, and I think we should just kind of cut that one out.
And I think we should say that there can only be one Terminator film.
Okay.
Well, we'll have to debate on which one it is, but I think there can only be one Terminator film. So the other ones, out of the other ones we've thrown out there, we got to narrow it down. Are we going some early days with Commando, Conan, or Predator? Are we going the funny ways with Junior and Kindergarten Cop and Twins?
Jingle All the Way only has a 17%.
Yeah, that's a bad movie.
I love that movie.
Jingle All the Way is a bad movie.
It's got Sinbad in it.
We're talking good, so where do we want to go here?
I think we've got...
Oh, Total Recall, too. I forgot about that.
I think it should be Terminator, Total Recall, and Predator.
Predator?
Mm-hmm.
And leaving Conan and Commando out?
If we only have to do 3, yeah.
It hurts not putting Kindergarten Cop in there. I love that film.
Yeah.
And I think you're on the right track. I think Terminator, Total Recall, and Predator all kind of represent him in his heyday.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that some of those other ones we mentioned aren't worthy.
I think Kindergarten Cop would be number 4.
And I think you have to put Conan the Barbarian in there somewhere.
Maybe Conan 4, Kindergarten Cop 5.
Yeah. Man. And Terminator, if I had to pick a film, just me personally, I would put Terminator 2 Judgment Day as the number 1 for his Terminator films.
If we have to
some people would put
Genisys,
some people would put Terminator 1 on there. I would put Terminator 2 on there. I know you'd put Genisys on there.
I would say Judgment Day.
So Judgment Day for Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Total Recall, and Predator. All right, so you guys will have to let us know if you are with us or against us on that, or which ones we missed. Like I said, I'm sorry we have not seen Malou, I think is how you say that. We have also not seen Dave. And we have not seen The Running Man, so we couldn't say on that.
We were about to watch that.
We were about to, but we ran out of time due to some other plans, so we can't talk about that one. But I think that's a decent list. I think that, might be a little narrow as far as the years, because we're talking about 87, 90, and 91, so we're just kind of counting that. But I think that, would you say that that's his prime?
I think those are his most iconic roles as far as what made him the action.
Right. I mean, he had the early 80s with the first Terminator and the Conan movies and Commando, and then, you kind of had that late science fiction in the late 80s with Total Recall and Predator and Terminator 2, etc. Then he kind of went into do some weird, not as good things
True Lies
for a
was
while.
Also pretty good.
Yeah. He did some political things and some action things and some comedy things. He tried to do a whole bunch of different stuff. And then obviously we had the break when he was the governor. So we had that phase in his career, and then now he's come back here in the recent times with, the Expendables, The Last Stand, Escape Plan, Sabotage, Maggie, and now this Terminator. So if you're looking at Arnold overall, before we get into the bad films, where would you say we've identified his prime, but where would you say he is at his career? Is he at a resurgence of somewhat? Is he on the downward hill here and not have much left in him, or what do you think?
I would say I think he's on a mild hill of a resurgence. I think he's coming back a little bit. I think that now that his plate is a little bit, less full of government political
aspirations and stuff.
Yeah, responsibilities. He doesn't have to run California anymore, so I think he can come back and do some stuff. And I think that he dipped his toe in with, Maggie and all that stuff, and Expendables and things like that. And I think it's doing well for him.
I think you're going to get a little bit of a mix from him here on out. You're going to have like the decent acting performance, smaller film type stuff, hopefully, and then you're going to have just I'm going to be in a film with Sylvester Stallone, or I'm going to be in a film with some action angle or some reboot on something or something like that. So, but I agree. I think he's on somewhat of a little hill here, so like a late career resurgence. It's like reinventing himself,
like a late life, mid-life crisis. I think he's going to be a little bit more choosy with the films that he does make. I feel like that's what's happening. I mean, look at Maggie. Can you see him doing anything like Maggie in his heyday?
No,
not
at all.
I think he's a little older. He needs to tone it down. I think he knows that a little bit. But I mean, I think he's still got it in him to do some action roles. Right. He's got a little gusto in him a little bit still.
Man, when all said and done, this guy's going to have a life and a career that is not empty with stories and things that he was able to accomplish, from the bodybuilding to the action hero to the governor. I
heard he smoked weed with Willie Nelson.
Probably. He probably did whatever he wanted in the late 80s. All right, so we got to get into some of the bad, though, because for all the good stuff that he's done, and for as much people as like his films, especially from the 80s, he has had some disasters along the way. So we're going to throw some out there. I got to say, as badly as Sabotage was reviewed, I have not seen it because of those reviews, so I can't really comment on how bad that is. Otherwise, that probably would be in the conversation. If we're talking about Rotten Tomatoes and what ones they dislike the most, you got stuff like Collateral Damage with a 19%, End of Days with 11, Jingle All the Way with 17, Batman and Robin with 11.
I forgot about Mr. Freeze.
Red Sonja with 18. So there is some bad ones out there. What's one that you would definitely think should be in the running?
It's harder to say his poopy movies.
I don't think so. I think he had a whole poopy section. Twins only has a 34%. I think that's better than that. But
let's say Jingle All the Way.
no, that you just get to announce one at a time here. So you're throwing Jingle All the Way
Yeah.
into the discussion. All right,
Don't hold me back.
You throw Jingle All the Way in there. I am for sure throwing Batman and Robin in there.
He was a great Mr. Freeze.
That was a terrible movie. That had a gazillion characters. It was not good. In the realm of Batman, it's probably one of the worst Batman films. So I will throw Batman and Robin. Oh my God, stop it.
Stop it.
Batman and Robin is definitely in the discussion. Jingle All the Way.
How do you get to say it's definitely in the discussion?
Because we get to nominate stuff, and I am nominating Batman and Robin as one of his worst films. You got Jingle All the Way. What else you want to throw in there?
I don't know. I feel like some of these I don't want to be too hard on. Last Stand, I actually kind of like Last Stand.
I absolutely did not like... I can't remember if it was... I don't want to get these two confused, The Sixth Day and End of Days. One of those I did not like at all. I thought that was super weird. I didn't necessarily like Junior. I didn't really like Eraser. I thought this is a time of his time. Collateral Damage. I thought all these were films that his late 90s, early 2000s, I think was his worst part of his career. So I could see a bunch of those being put in there. So you like action films though, so even the crappy ones you tend to like. So I don't know. I would say I'm fine with Jingle All the Way and Batman and Robin being two of them. If I'm coming up with another one, me personally, I'm probably putting End of Days in there.
Why? Do you even remember that
Yeah,
movie?
I did not like it at all. But you like all the supernatural and otherworldly type stuff. I thought it was terrible, and I didn't think he was very believable in that role as Jericho from 1999. So, all right, if you don't want End of Days, then you got to come up with something else. We got to come to an agreement here. What else do you want to throw in there? Junior, Eraser,
I'm gonna
Last
fucking
Action
throw
Hero.
in Dave's because I've never even
You
seen
can't do
it.
that. It's a 94%. You absolutely can't do that. I haven't seen Red Sonja, so I can't comment on that one. What do you think here?
I should have had more time for this, just saying. You know, I don't know. You gotta throw something there. I'm gonna say one of the Expendables movies. No, we already eliminated that, right?
Yeah.
We eliminated that. I eliminated that.
Yeah.
Let's say True Lies.
True Lies is decent.
Meh.
That's a decent film.
Everybody just likes that movie because Jamie Lee Curtis is all getting freaky on the bedpost.
I'm telling you, Collateral Damage, End of Days, Last Action Hero. Those were all bad movies. Junior, not that good of a movie.
He was pregnant. It was amazing.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is pregnant as bad as Hulk Hogan being a nanny.
I liked that.
Eraser?
Yeah. Eraser wasn't bad.
All right, you are way too keen on some of these films.
I just like a lot of Arnold movies.
All right, well, we'll have to let people help us out on picking our third one. We got Jingle All the Way, and even though she's against it, we got Batman and Robin, and we need help picking out a third one. So, the listeners, let us know which film should be added onto the list. Not just which film should be added onto the bad list to make out our three films there, but also let us know what you think about our top three picks with Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Total Recall, and Predator, with honorable mention for Conan the Barbarian and Kindergarten Cop. So, quite the collection there. So let us know how we did on the top and which film should be added to the trio for bottom. Batman and Robin, Jingle All the Way, and I'm still voting End of Days, but Amanda won't let me do that. So let me know what you guys think on that one. Any other thoughts on Arnold? Are you a fan or not of Arnold?
I am a fan. I've always been a fan. I think that should be apparent with how many of his movies I like.
Yeah, that is for sure. As we said, we're not going to be getting into what we've been watching here. The homework assignments, we'll save that for when Dan's back. As far as Blu-ray releases and theater releases, obviously we had Terminator today. We had the documentary Amy. We had Magic Mike XXL. And then for Blu-ray releases, quite a few from this year, actually. Kill Me 3 Times, 5 Flights Up, Merchants of Doubt, Maggie, like we talked about, so it all fits with the Arnold talk, Woman in Gold, and Slow West. So we've already seen Terminator, so we got to eliminate that. If you have the choice of seeing the Amy documentary, it's the only time you can ever see it, seeing Magic Mike XXL, the only time you're ever going to be able to see it, or buying, as your only option ever to buy one of these other films, what are you going to do?
I'm gonna go see Magic Mike XXL.
That was never in question.
I like my man meats.
Man, as for me, I would almost like to do nothing on this one. I absolutely have no desire to see that Amy documentary. I can't stand Amy Winehouse. Couldn't stand her. Don't want to see anything about her life. So I would eliminate myself
Rehab
from
was
that.
my shit back in the
I
day.
don't want to see Magic Mike XXL. I'm sorry. Doesn't seem like my thing. And I hated Maggie. I think it's one of the worst films of 2015. I like Slow West. I mean, I'm not raving about it like everybody else. I don't think it's top 10 material, but I mean, it's cool. It's a little Western, Michael Fassbender, a little artsy. Like, it was fun, whatever. So I guess I'll buy that, but it's not a very...
I guess I'll buy that.
Hopefully it's in the bargain bin. So... in the Walmart bargain bin, or $3 at Disc Replay or something. All right, so we already talked about a little feedback for the website, so we hope you guys will continue the comments there, and obviously the next week's question is all about filling out Arnold's bottom 3. So what film, if you already have Batman and Robin and Jingle All the Way, what film would you put as the third?
Better not be End of Days.
It should be End of Days. So what is the third worst Arnold film? And then obviously give us our feedback on everything. I know a lot of you are going to disagree with our take on Terminator Genisys, so we'd be interested to see why everyone hates it, and we will definitely interact on the website. We'll reply, we'll get into discussions there, as well as the feedback from the Arnold Spotlight. So let us know all about that. And like we teased last week and a little earlier this week, our next episode, promise guys, will be the half-year wrap-up. So the first half of 2015, Dan, Amanda, and I will break it down. What are our best films, our worst films? We got some fun categories along the way that you won't have heard on all the other podcasts. So it's much more than just our top 5 films for the year so far. We're gonna
I
have
can
some...
actually not guarantee that because I have been avoiding all those shows because I don't want my list tainted by other people's lists.
All right. No taintedness on Amanda's
No
list.
taints.
No taints. All right. So thanks as always for tuning in to the Cinema Geeks this week. Obviously, you can contact us in a bunch of different ways. Best thing would be to visit geekcastradio.com, find our episode post, and talk to us on there, or blogtalkradio.com, where we're featured, and we'll try to interact with you as well there. You can follow the network on Facebook by searching out Geekcast Radio Network, and TFG1 Mike will keep you up to date on all the different podcasts we put out there, not just the movie podcast. As far as Twitter, that's probably the best way to get instant reactions from us, and you can follow the show there at Cinema Geekcast. You can follow me at Optimus Solo, and Amanda.
Hard Candy Mandy, eyes no eyes.
So that is it for us. Be sure to check in next week for our mid-year review and your next chance to listen to us, the Cinema Geeks.